Okay, Chair, we are live.
Thanks, Devin. I'll call this meeting to order. Devin, will you take the roll call, please? We need to.
Okay, when I call your name, please indicate you are present for the meeting. Chair Dwight Burley.
Here.
Member Carol Barfoot is absent. Member Grant Pringle.
Present.
Member Sue Carlton.
Present.
And Paul Sutherland is absent. Member Ryan Thompson. Ryan is absent. And Member Kathy Moore Coburn.
Present.
Thank you, and we have quorum.
Okay, well, we'll continue then. Declaration of peculiar interest, you can declare anytime you see fit during the meeting. Minutes of the June 16th meeting. That the minutes of the Committee for Adjustment meeting held on June 16th, 2020 be adopted. Do you have someone to move to put it on the floor, please? Looks like it was moved by Grant, second by Kathy. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none. Devin, you take the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. When I call your name, please indicate whether you are for or against the motion. Chair Dwight Burley.
For.
Carol Barfoot is absent. Member Grant Pringle.
For.
Member Sue Carlton.
For.
And Paul Sutherland is absent. Ryan Thompson is absent. And Member Kathy Moore Coburn.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Okay, moving on with our agenda, we're down to new business, new applications. Severance application B0420 for Ken Marine McDonald. Trying to look at my script. Okay. This is a meeting of the Committee for Adjustment to consider application for consent for Ken Marine McDonald under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property legally described as Part Lot 17, Concession 5. Will the Secretary Treasurer please give your report?
Thank you, Chair. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 19796 made under the Planning Act was given on June 17th, 2020 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 120 meters of the property which is subject to the application and to all required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject land and the Township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of the decision of the Committee in respect to this proposed consent may submit an appeal.
Thank you. Could the planner give the updated planning report regarding this file? Jen?
Good afternoon. So this is a very straightforward application, although it's involved because it's comprised of technically four applications. Ken and Maureen McDonald actually live right next door to the Township office. So on one side we have Coca-Cola, and then on the other side here we have the property with the house. That's the property that is the subject of these severance applications. So what they would like to do is basically create two, they're just roughly under 1 acre lots, and for residential development. So if approved, if all of the applications are approved, then there would be two building lots adjacent to the Township office. When we look at the policies that affect this application, we start with the official plans. So Under the county official plan, the property is located within a settlement area. As we know, the settlement areas promote growth and development, so putting in 2 lots in the settlement area boundary is what those plans are directing, how those plans are directing development to go. The settlement area boundary is actually the McDonald's property, so the township office is technically in the rural designation. The Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan does designate a portion of the property as environmental hazard, and that's related to the water course that runs through the property. And you'll see that on the the official plan designation image that's included on page 2 of the report. So because it's designated future development in the area where the proposed severances are, it doesn't comply with the township official plan. That's why township official plan amendment is required. So an application OPA 9 has been submitted and will be considered by council. The public meeting will be had tomorrow evening for the official plan amendment, as well as the zoning of bylaw amendment, which is required as the property is zoned future or plan development. So the lots will be individually serviced, so privately serviced with wells and septic systems. In support of the applications, the property owner submitted a drainage study to demonstrate compliance that was completed by a professional engineer, and there is support for the application through that study. The drainage plan was reviewed by the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority and accepted. And what we do want to note is through that process, it has been determined that the lot that is going to be created abutting the township property, there is going to be a ditch, a drainage ditch, running the length of that lot towards the back of the property. So if we're facing Gray Road 18, it's going to run, it'll be located 1.5 meters inside that property line, and it will run towards the back of the lot, and it will, there will be a drainage easement necessary over the McDonald's retained parcel to accommodate that water. So that has been put forward as a condition of severance. So we did, the property owner and their agent did consult with the County of Gray. So they have obtained an exemption from the entrance permit policy that the county has. They have a limit on the number of entrances that can be along a roadway within a given distance, depending on the speed limit. So the county transportation department does support that. They have asked for a road widening through this process for both the severed and retained parcels. So that will be that has been identified as a condition of severance, and we will satisfy their request by providing that road widening. We also circulated to the Ministry of Transportation. So we circulate to the Ministry of Transportation when properties are within a certain distance of a controlled access highway or an intersection. So because Highway 21 and Gray Road 18 is a major intersection here, we did circulate to the MTO, and they have no concerns with the proposed application. So the Conservation Authority have reviewed this application, and so under their memorandum of understanding with the township, they also review the natural heritage features on the property for us. So they're concluding that consistency with Section 2.1 of the PPS has been demonstrated. They are noting that the proposed lots are set back further from natural heritage features than existing development. And those new lots that are proposed are not proposed within an area where they could contain, like they're not proposed to contain any of the existing waterways. So there would be no fish habitat present on either of those lots. So the Conservation Authority identified a natural hazard on the property, on the entire property is what they review. And the hazard identified is the flood and erosion potential of the Potawatomi River. So they did note estimated floodplain mapping from 1988, and all of the existing structures on the retained lot, so the house and the accessory buildings on the property next door, are actually located within a floodplain area. So what they did in their review of the application was looked at the retained parcel to make sure that there was sufficient area outside of that floodplain area to relocate any of the dwellings if they needed to. So they're concluding that section 3.1 of the PPS has been demonstrated. So as I mentioned, the zoning bylaw, the lots are planned development, and they're applying through their amendment process to have them zoned general residential, which is R1, and it will allow them to build houses, have the residential driveways, as well as any accessory structures that that they need to complement their property. We did circulate this the applications to various agencies, and I know that the second application B05 is going to be considered this evening as well. So all of the policies that I'm speaking about apply to both of the lots, proposed lots, as well as all of the comments that were received are comments based on the 4 applications, so the OPA, the zoning, and then the 2 severance applications. So I won't be reading these comments again for application B05. So we had the Grace Harbor Conservation Authority. They note they are generally accepting of the proposed grading and drainage plans. They recommend that those plans be updated if necessary to address future site-specific development proposals for each of the lots. They conclude that consistency with section 3.1 of the PPS has been demonstrated, and consistency with sections 2.1 and 2.2 of the PPS have been demonstrated. The Ontario Regulation 15106 does apply to the subject site, so that's their Ontario regulation that requires permits for any sort of site alteration or development that takes place within a regulated area. The subject site is located within an area subject policies contained in the Saugeen, Grace Harbor, Northern Bruce Peninsula Source Protection Plan, and they request to be notified of any decision rendered with respect to these files. The Grey County Planning and Development Department, they commented that provided the proposed developments can be adequately serviced, the comments are received from the Conservation Authority regarding the hazard lands and the natural heritage features, and all county transportation requirements have been met. They have no further concerns with the subject applications, and they wish to be notified of any decision rendered with respect to the applications. So just with our the staff comment that's noted in the report, so we can confirm that consistency with the PP section 3.1 and 2.1 of the PPS has been demonstrated to address the county's concerns, as well as the requirement for road widening. It is listed as a condition of consent for both applications, and so that meets their transportation requirement. And then their comment about the their requests, or the risk management office. They had no comments on this application. They did provide us with comments on June 18th, and they have stated they have no comments, and a notice is not required for the proposed development. The Historic Saugeen Métis have no concerns or objections to the applications. The Bruce Grey Catholic District School Board noted no comments on the applications. Enbridge Gas noted that there are service lines running within the area which may or may not be affected by the proposed severance. Should the proposed severance impact these services, it may be necessary to terminate the gas service and relocate the line according to the new property boundary. And it's up to the owner to contact them prior to any work. And if there's any relocation required for the services, then it would be at the cost of the property owner. Bell Canada noted no concerns. The Niagara Escarpment Commission note that the subject property is outside of development control. Hydro One, they have no concerns or comments at this time. And the Ministry of Transportation reviewed the applications and overall the subject site in accordance with the Public Transportation and Highway Improvement Act, and the MTO has no requirements for this proposal. We did circulate this notice of public meeting to all residents within 120 meters of the property, and we did not receive any comments from the public by the report submission deadline, and we since have not received any comments this week. So, as you see from my report, my recommendation is to approve the severance applications this evening, as it has been demonstrated that the applications are consistent with the provincial policy statement, the County of Grey official plan, the Township of Georgian Bluffs official plan, and the intent of the zoning bylaw. And I won't read the conditions that are in my report, but I will point out that for application B0420, there is a requirement for 5% cash in lieu of parkland in accordance with the Planning Act, and that the applicant deed a 5.182 meter road widening for both the severed and retained lots to the satisfaction of the County of Grey, and that official plan amendment 9 be in force and effect, and that a zoning bylaw amendment be in force and effect. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you are muted.
Sorry about that. No members of the public registered with the acting clerk to provide comment in support or in opposition to the applicant. I now call upon authorized agent Ron Davis to make comments to this application. Ron, please state your name, first name, last name for the record prior to beginning, please.
Yes, good afternoon, folks. My name is Ron Davidson. I'm the planning consultant representing Mr. and Mrs. McDonald. Jennifer did a very thorough evaluation of the application, so I shall be brief. As she indicated at the onset of her presentation, these applications are pretty standard or straightforward for the most part. The lands are designated as a secondary settlement area. They're within Spring Mount, and your official plan is generally very supportive of development going in an urban area, as is the county official plan. As Jen indicated, it does require an official plan amendment because the lands are designated future development, and that needs to be changed to residential. Just to be quite frank, not sure why they would be designated future development, because I went on a fact-finding mission, and you have absolutely no residential land left in Spring Mount, not one vacant lot. Could be wrong, but I couldn't find any. So when you deal with the official plan amendment tomorrow night, you may be hearing that same comment again. As Jennifer indicated, there was a lot of upfront pre-consultation with the Conservation Authority and the County Highways Department. They wanted to see some engineering work done up front, so there was probably 6 months spent in getting the engineer to prepare a drainage plan that was satisfactory to both the Conservation Authority and the County Highways Department, and they're on board. Secondly, the County Highways Department As Jen indicated, we needed to address the number of entrance permits that are allowed along a county road. We did get an exemption from that. That should not scare you. Their policies don't really make sense in an urban area. Obviously, you're going to have more entrances along a county road in an urban area than you would elsewhere. So getting an exemption was not a big deal. And the Conservation Authority also told us up front before we filed the application anyway that there were no concerns with regard to natural heritage. And you heard Jennifer talk about that as well. So it really is a straightforward development proposal. And that's it for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Are there any points raised by the agent or committee that anyone wishes to reply to? I'll first turn it over to the committee. Does the committee have any comment? Does anyone have any comment? I will now call for a motion on the decision.
Great, thank you, Chair. When I call your name, please indicate whether you're for or against the motion.
Deb and I, do I need to read it?
Yes, please.
The committee has received written or oral submissions during the hearing and have taken these submissions into consideration as will be further described in the minutes of this hearing. The Committee of Adjustments approved severance application B0420 for Ken and Maureen McDonald with the following conditions. 1, that a reference plan be completed and copy filed with municipal clerk, or an exemption from reference plan be received from the Land Registry Office. 2, that pursuant to Section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 1 year of giving the notice of decision. Note, Section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of a certificate that is stamped of the deed. 3, that the applicant pay the applicable $300 consent certification fee at the time of certification of the deeds. 4, that the applicant pay 5% cash in lieu of parkland in accordance with Planning Act. 5, that the applicant deed 5.182 meters for road widening purposes for both the severance and retained lots to Grey County and to satisfaction of the Grey County Transportation Service. 6, that official plan amendment 9 be in force in effect. 7, that a zoning bylaw amendment be in force in effect. Do I have someone to move to put the motion on the floor, please? Moved by Sue, second by Grant. Now, Devin, you please take the vote.
Great, thank you, Chair. When I call your name, please indicate whether you're for or against the motion. Chair Dwight Burley.
For.
Member Carol Barfoot is absent. Member Grant Pringle.
For.
Member Sue Carlton.
For.
Member Paul Sutherland is absent. And Member Ryan Thompson.
For.
And Member Kathy Moore Colburn.
For.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. I now call for an adjournment of this meeting. I have someone to move by Kathy, second by Ryan. Do we need to have a vote or show of hands? I guess everyone's for it, so the meeting is adjourned. So I'm going to move on for our agenda. I'm going to go down to severance application B0520. This is a meeting at the Committee of Adjustment to consider the application for consent for Ken and Maureen McDonald under Section 53 of the Planning Act regarding property legally described as Part Lot 17, Concession 5. Would the Secretary Treasurer give a report, please?
Thank you, Chair. There have been no requests for deferral or withdrawal of the application. Notice of this consent in accordance with Ontario Regulation 197-96 made under the Planning Act was given on June 17, 2020 by ordinary mail to all property owners within 120 meters of the property which is subject to the application and to all the required agencies. Notice was also posted on the subject lands and on the Township's website. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment, you must make a written request to the Secretary-Treasurer of the committee. Only a person or public body that requests a notice of decision of the committee in respect to this proposed consent may submit an appeal.
Thanks, Devin. Could the planner please give us the updated planning report regarding this file? Jen?
Yes. So as I mentioned about 3 minutes ago, the comments provided by the agencies apply to this application as well as the policy review that I presented for the previous application applies to this lot as well. I just wanted to point out the location of the proposed lots can be found on page 9 of the planning report. So severed parcel number 2, which is the subject of this application, is the parcel that's going to be located right next door to the township property. And you can see where the main parcel is outlined in the dashed marks. Where it abuts the township property, that's where the drainage course is going to go. And then it is going to go into, you'll see it marked there in gray hatch marks is the existing ditch. So the drainage will run into there. So the only difference with this, the conditions for this application, we are putting forward the cash in lieu of parkland in accordance with the Planning Act. The road widening as requested by County Transportation Services. And then for this one that is different from B04 is that what we want is the applicant to either demonstrate that the drainage easements have been registered on title or include reference to the drainage easements in the certificates prepared for stamping. So they could come forward with a survey showing where the drainage easement is to go so that it can get registered, along with the when the deeds are stamped. We want to make sure that there is a drainage easement registered for this property so that the property owner is responsible to maintain their drainage ditch and that we don't have any problems moving forward with water coming onto the township property, because we don't want to approve development that floods out the neighbor. Sorry. And then as well, they need an official plan amendment in force and effect, as well as a zoning amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. It's pretty close to where I'm sitting too. No member of the public registered with the acting clerk to provide comments in support or in opposition to the applicant. I now call upon the authorized agent, Ron Davis, to make comments on this application. Please state your first name and last name for the record prior to beginning, please. Ron, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm still Ron Davidson, and I have nothing further to add.
Thank you, Ron. Are there any points raised by the agent or committee that anyone wishes to apply to? Does the committee have any comments? Seeing none, I will now call for a motion on this decision. The committee has received written or oral submissions during the hearing and have taken these submissions into consideration, as will be further described in the minutes of this hearing. The Committee of Adjustment approved severance application B0520 for Ken and Maureen McDonald with the following conditions. 1, that a reference plan be completed and a copy filed with a municipal clerk, or an exemption from the registry plan be received from the land registry office. 2, that pursuant to section 5342 of the Planning Act, the certificate of consent be affixed to the deed within 1 year of giving off the notice of decision. Note, section 5343 of the Planning Act requires that the transaction approved by this consent must be carried out within 2 years of the issuance of a certificate that is stamped of the deed. 3, that the applicant pay the applicable $300 consent certification fee at the time certificate of the deeds. 4, that the applicant pays 5% cash in lieu of parkland in accordance with the Planning Act. 5, that the applicant deed 5.182 meters for road widening purposes for both the severance and retained lots to the Grey County and to satisfaction of the Grey County Transportation Services. 6, that the applicant either A, demonstrates that the drainage easements have been registered on title, or B, includes reference to the drainage easements in the certificate prepared for stamping. 7, that official plan amendment 9 be enforced in effect. 8, that a zoning bylaw amendment be enforced in effect. We have someone to move, put it on the floor, please. Moved by Ryan, second by Kathy. If there's no comments on the motion, Devin, you take the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. When I call your name, please indicate whether you're for or against the motion. Chair Dwight Burley.
4.
Member Kara Barfoot is absent. Member Grant Pringle.
4.
Member Sue Carlton.
4.
Member Paul Sutherland is absent. Member Ryan Thompson.
4.
And Member Kathy Moore Coburn.
4.
Thank you, and that carries.
Thank you. I now call for adjournment of this hearing. Do you have something to adjourn? Deputy Mayor Carlton, Councillor Pringle. I guess the meeting is adjourned. So I'll follow the agenda down to unfinished business. I see none. Our next scheduled meeting is August 11th, 2020, 4 p.m. Do I need a motion to adjourn? No? Moved by Kathy? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.